The rumor is they're remaking SOCOM, and I want to talk about that. What do you think? You think it's a good idea for Guerrilla and their second team? They hired away the game director of Rainbow Six Siege. My take is don't you fucking touch SOCOM, because all you're doing is asking for trouble. 90% of the audience doesn't remember or care about SOCOM, and 10% of the audience, you're not going to please 90% of that 10%. Because they have a very specific game they have been asking for forever. And they will litter the internet telling you what a moron you are for getting it wrong and a moron for not understanding. And why didn't you just do this? I experienced this with a hardcore contingent of Twisted Metal Black players when we made the new Twisted Metal. You could do no right for these people. Not to say that they're assholes, but they had a very specific game that they wanted, and they were convinced that they were right about everything. Anything that they thought of was Twisted Metal was better than what I came up with, was better than what Scott came up with, was better than what Kellen came up with. They knew, we didn't. We should just shut up and make their fucking order like short order cooks, okay? The SOCOM audience that's still hanging on to the dream is more hardcore than the Twisted Metal audience. And all you're going to do is disappoint the vast majority of them, no matter how great the Guerrilla game will be, which I think it will be great. So why would you put yourself in a situation to ask for that kind of trouble? Why would you put yourself in a situation to risk the internet attacks and possible bad PR? Why not just make a brand new IP, especially given SOCOM now in the current landscape is so conceptually generic anyway? In fact, SOCOM is an actual group of the Navy, right? I think they had to license the name SOCOM. So Sony doesn't even really fucking own it. Why don't you just make up your own fucking thing, whether it's real world and it's exactly what you would want SOCOM to be, or it's got a little more creativity so you can brand it better. Why would you put your head into that fucking lion? That's what I want to know. I could see SOCOM being kind of like a more open Rainbow Six Siege. I'm not talking about the game design. I think whatever Guerrilla does will be great. I think the fact that you're merging Guerrilla Games with the fucking director of Rainbow Six Siege, assuming that particular individual was a really key component to why that game is great and has been such a success and has such great legs, I think anything they make is going to be awesome. And I think it's great because Sony needs to get their ass into the multiplayer world in a big way, not just like these fun cult hit games like the Last of Us multiplayer, which I know is great, but ultimately it never escaped the atmosphere. It never escaped the gravity of sort of just being a cult multiplayer game. Sony needs their big multiplayer hit, their big multiplayer shooter. I agree it'll be great regardless, but why attach SOCOM's name to it is what I'm asking. Sony wants that games as a service revenue, says Secret Sauce. Of course. Nothing's wrong with that. SOCOM was third person. Great. So what? Mr. Modern says because there's a demand for SOCOM's return. I would argue with that, though. I would argue with you and then say I don't think there's a demand. Is there a demand for SOCOM's return? Yeah. Guess what else there is? There's a demand for Twisted Metal's return. But the number of people actually demanding it are a very vocal minority. The number of people demanding SOCOM are more than Twisted Metal, I would guess. But do you really think it's like some groundswell, right? You might announce it at E3 and everyone goes, fuck yeah, baby, fuck yeah, it's back. And everyone's excited for 10 minutes. Look, I drove out on stage in an ice cream truck at E3 and the world fell apart in video games. It was written about everywhere. It's the number one story of the day, of the week. Oh my God, Twisted Metal's back. End of the day, though, the number of people that really care about it, it's not worth pissing them off. You might as well make something different. The SOCOM name is just part of Sony fanboy rumors, says Retro. So, Retro, you do not think that they are actually going to pull that off and make a SOCOM. There was a demand for Half-Life 3. I can't believe it happened. Well, wait and see, pal. Half-Life 3, which gets announced on Thursday, or at least shown on Thursday, Proto V, is a VR game that a lot of people are, lo and behold, upset about. You're never going to please the fans that have fetishized these old games that they grew up with. All you're going to do is disappoint them. I saw it in Twisted. We see it in Star Wars. You're seeing it in Half-Life. You're going to see it in SOCOM. You may as well make something new. May as well make something new and build a new franchise. 100% Sober Hippie. They need multiplayer exclusives. Please, for the love of God, hear what I'm saying. What Guerrilla is doing is awesome. Make a shooter. Make a tactical shooter. Make a tactical shooter with the fucking director of Rainbow Six Siege that you stole away. Brilliant moves all around, pals. Go for it. Just don't call it SOCOM.